I don't even know where to start. Maybe I should have seen it coming, but hindsight is cruel like that. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Jessica for 7 years. We've had a pretty solid life, or at least I thought we did. She's smart, ambitious, and she has this charm about her that could disarm anyone. It's one of the reasons I fell so hard for her. But lately, things haven't felt right. It started small. She began dressing up more often, even when she said she was just meeting a friend or grabbing coffee. She started guarding her phone like it was classified government property. The late-night work meetings cropped up more frequently, too. I wanted to trust her, I did, but the distance between us was growing like a canyon. One night, I couldn't take the nagging in the back of my mind anymore. She had left her phone charging in the kitchen while she was upstairs taking a shower. It was there, buzzing with notifications, right in front of me. I knew it was wrong, but something inside me said, check it. And so I did. What I found left my stomach in knots. Messages. From someone named Brad. Casual at first, but then, not so casual. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Last night was amazing, one of the texts read. I could barely breathe. My hands were trembling as I put the phone back where I found it. That was the first time I felt the crack in my world widen. After that night, my life became a spy movie, except I wasn't James Bond. I didn't confront her right away, I needed more proof. I needed to be sure I wasn't just jumping to conclusions. So, I started paying closer attention. She had a pattern. She'd leave for these meetings or girls' nights at odd times that didn't match up with her usual routines. Her perfume was heavier on those nights, and when she came back, she'd head straight for the shower. She didn't want me too close, claiming she was tired or had a headache. It was like living with a stranger who just happened to have my wife's face. One evening, I followed her. I know it sounds crazy, believe me, I felt crazy doing it, but I needed answers. She said she was meeting her friend Erica at a bar downtown, but instead, she drove to a hotel on the other side of town. I parked a few spaces away and watched as she got out of the car, smoothed her dress, and walked straight into the lobby without looking back. A few minutes later, a man tall, muscular, and way too familiar with her met her at the entrance. They kissed. Not a quick peck, not a friendly hug. A kiss. My blood ran cold. I sat there for what felt like hours, my mind racing, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard they hurt. I wasn't sure if I wanted to scream, cry, or throw up. Maybe all three. When she came home later that night, acting like nothing was wrong, I couldn't even look at her. She leaned in to kiss me goodnight, and I turned my head. That's when she gave me that fake, sugary smile she always put on when she was trying to sell a lie. "What's wrong, babe?" she asked, her voice dripping with insincerity. "Nothing," I muttered. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. I couldn't keep the charade up much longer. Every time Jessica looked at me with that sweet, lying face, my anger simmered just below the surface. I wanted to scream, to grab her and demand answers, but I knew if I did it without proof, she'd gaslight me into oblivion. She was good at that. Too good. The final straw came a few days later. Her phone buzzed while she was in the shower, and for once, I didn't hesitate. I picked it up and opened the message. It was from Brad. "Can't wait for our getaway next weekend. It's all set. Goodbye, Mike." My world stopped. They weren't just sneaking around. They were planning to leave me. It hit me like a freight train, she wasn't just cheating. She was plotting to erase me from her life. My hand shook as I scrolled through their messages, reading about hotel stays, accidental run-ins at the gym, and even me. They joked about me. Brad called me a clueless idiot, and she agreed. The woman I loved was mocking me behind my back. I felt this deep, guttural rage rise in me. It was no longer just betrayal, it was humiliation. I put the phone back, careful not to leave a trace. When she came out of the bathroom, I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at my coffee like it held the secrets to the universe. She walked past me without a word, humming to herself, and it was all I could do not to explode. But I needed a plan. If she was going to play dirty, so was I. I spent the next few days gathering evidence. I took screenshots of their messages when she wasn't looking and emailed them to myself. I tracked her location on her phone. I even called in a favor from my buddy Joe, who worked as a PI, to tail her and Brad. I wanted everything: texts, photos, timestamps. I wanted her caught red-handed. That's when I discovered the most horrifying part of their plan. One of Brad's texts mentioned making sure the accident looks real. At first, I thought I was reading it wrong, but as I kept digging, it became clear. They weren't just planning to run away together. They were planning to get rid of me. Forever. My heart raced as I pieced together the chilling truth. Brad and Jessica weren't just scheming to leave me, they wanted me out of the picture entirely. Permanently. Messages like "we'll stage it at the cabin" and "he's always so careless on hikes" painted a grim picture. They were planning to make my death look like a tragic accident. But instead of fear, I felt something else. Cold determination. If they thought I was clueless, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. I didn't confront Jessica right away. Instead, I played dumb. I even apologized for being distant and acted like the oblivious husband she thought I was. It wasn't easy. Every fake smile she gave me made my skin crawl, but I needed her to believe I was completely in the dark. When she suggested we take a romantic weekend at the cabin, a place we hadn't been to in years, I agreed, all smiles. "Sounds perfect," I said, knowing exactly what she and Brad were planning. She didn't know I had already looped in Joe. He was going to be nearby, ready to capture every move they made. The night before we left, I checked the cabin's cameras. Jessica didn't know I had installed a security system there a couple of years ago. I didn't have audio, but I saw them together, sneaking around, clearly mapping out their plan. I watched as Brad gestured dramatically, mimicking a fall off the cabin's infamous cliffside trail. My stomach churned, but I kept my cool. I was going to turn the tables. Jessica and I arrived at the cabin on a Friday afternoon. She played the doting wife, making us dinner and pouring me a drink. I could feel the tension beneath her forced smiles. She was watching me too closely, like she was waiting for something. The next morning, she suggested we go for a hike. I agreed, pretending to be enthusiastic. Joe had positioned himself in the woods, ready to record from a safe distance. He'd also tipped off a friend in law enforcement, just in case things got messy. We hiked for about an hour, the tension building with every step. The trail grew narrower as we neared the cliffs. My heart pounded, but I kept my face neutral. Jessica stopped suddenly, pretending to adjust her shoe. "Mike, go ahead." "I'll catch up," she said with an overly sweet smile. I nodded and walked ahead, my ears straining for the sound of Brad sneaking up behind me. And then I heard it, the crunch of footsteps, faster, heavier. I turned just as Brad lunged at me, trying to shove me toward the edge. But I was ready. I sidestepped and threw my weight into him, sending him sprawling to the ground. "Jessica, help!" he shouted, scrambling to his feet. But she just stood there, frozen, her mask of control slipping. "Didn't expect that, did you?" I said, my voice cold. Brad lunged again, but this time, I stepped aside entirely. His momentum carried him right over the edge. Jessica screamed as Brad disappeared from view. I ran to the edge and looked down. He wasn't moving. Jessica's scream echoed through the cliffs, but all I felt was a strange, hollow calm. Brad lay motionless below, his lifeless body a stark contrast to the chaos raging inside my head. "What the hell did you do?" Jessica shrieked, her mask finally cracking as she scrambled toward me, grabbing my arm. "You killed him." I yanked my arm free and turned to face her, my expression hard. "I killed him? Are you serious right now, Jessica? He tried to kill me." "You both did." Her face paled, her bravado dissolving into something I hadn't seen in years, genuine fear. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, Joe emerged from the woods, camera in hand. Her eyes widened in horror as she realized what was happening. "Don't even try to spin this," I said, my voice ice cold. "Joe got the whole thing on tape. Every single word." She stammered, "Mike, I didn't mean for this to happen. It was Brad's idea. He forced me into it. I didn't want to hurt you." I laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. "You expect me to believe that? After everything I've seen? After the texts? The plans?" Her face crumpled, and for a moment, she looked like the woman I used to love, vulnerable, desperate. "Please, Mike. We can fix this. You have to believe me." "I didn't mean—" "Stop," I interrupted, my voice sharp. "You meant every word, Jessica. You chose this. You threw away everything we had for him, and now look where it got you." Joe pulled out his phone and called the police, explaining the situation while Jessica sank to her knees, sobbing. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. The police arrived within an hour. By then, Jessica had tried everything: tears, apologies, even blaming me. But with Joe's footage and the evidence I'd collected, her lies crumbled like a house of cards. They ruled Brad's death as an accident during an attempted assault. Jessica, however, didn't escape so easily. The police arrested her on conspiracy charges after I handed over the texts and emails. I watched as they led her away, her face a mix of shock and betrayal. "You'll regret this," she screamed as they put her in the car. But I didn't regret it. Not for a second. In the days that followed, I felt like I was walking through the wreckage of my life. Friends and family rallied around me, offering support and sympathy, but there was no escaping the truth: my wife had tried to kill me. Divorce papers were filed immediately. Jessica didn't contest them. What could she say? She was facing serious jail time. Her family tried to reach out, begging me to drop the charges, but I ignored them. I had spent too long being the nice guy. It was time to put myself first. Brad's death made headlines, and while it was ruled accidental, the gossip was relentless. I chose to focus on rebuilding my life. Therapy helped, as did reconnecting with old friends. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. It's been a year since that weekend at the cabin. Jessica is in prison, serving time for her role in the plot. I hear she's filed countless appeals, but they've all been denied. As for Brad, his family never contacted me. I don't know if they even knew the truth. I've moved on, not just from Jessica, but from the person I was when I let her control me. I've learned that trust is a gift, not a guarantee, and that sometimes, the people closest to you can be the most dangerous. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone reading this, it's to trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. I could have been another unsolved tragedy, just a name on a police report. But I didn't let that happen. And now, I'm free. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think.